What's going on, guys? Zain here with Everything Vive. I want to welcome you back for another episode. I'm here with Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing good. Busy packing this weekend as I will be out of town. So we're actually recording this a little bit earlier than we normally do. We try to record it on Monday or Tuesday night and have it out to you by Tuesday evening. But we are recording this over the weekend on April Fools. But no jokes today. I haven't seen anything too crazy.
Yeah, we're not clever enough for that. Plus, we're too busy to come up with jokes that are just kind of like, throwaway gags, whatnot.
Yeah, it's funny because I was on the Vive subreddit today, and people were just like, "I'm not going to believe any news article that is posted on here today." And there were a couple
of good ones I saw on some of the websites I go to for like various like PC hardware stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was one that was like there was a YouTube video with like a little mini like NVIDIA graphics card thing that looks like a USB stick, and you plug it in and it like learns how to play like you, so you can go and eat pizza and stuff while your friends are like thinking they're playing with you. And then it was basically like, yeah, we're NVIDIA using their deep machine learning and artificial intelligence to let gamers not play video games. So there was that, and then there was another one that was like, there was one other one that I want to mention because I thought it was pretty funny. It was obviously fake, but it was talking about how word on the street was that the new GTX 1080s could be flashed to be 1080 Ti's. Like literally, it was just like a software, like a BIOS flash, and that was kind of funny because like back in the day, like this was like years and years ago. There were a couple of versions of like, I remember there was an ATI back in the day graphics card that you could buy the lower end model and flash it to the higher end model, and that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that stuff doesn't really happen anymore. But anyways, when I read that, for a split second I was like, what? And then I was like, oh yeah, April Fools.
I feel like if I had read that, it just would have all gone over my head anyway. But yeah, so I was carefully treading through the subreddit today, and probably tomorrow I'm sure there'll be some late April Fool's stuff. But let's jump into the news first, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, let's do that.
And I was looking through. There's not much, but I do want to cover one topic, which we'll get to. The main thing that I have here is just another wireless VR update. Looking at an article on Upload VR, it's looking like they are shipping out the TPCAST wireless adapters to China this month, and it says they're still shooting for a Q2 release for the West, but we haven't heard any updates yet. But I think the fact that they are shipping out in China is obviously a good sign that they're not running behind schedule or anything. Although I feel like I've seen conflicting reports, but I'm gonna be optimistic on this one and say that if I haven't seen major delays, hoping that we can still hit that Q2 for the wireless solutions on TPCAST.
If I recall, like all the announcements early on for TPCAST were focused on China first anyways. Like I remember it had gone up for pre-order over there before it had been announced here.
It was end of last year that they went to pre-order, so a while ago actually.
Yeah. But like still, like it seems like it would make sense that there would be a Chinese launch first before we started hearing things over on this end. So,
and this kind of just goes, I know it's a little off topic, but just in the conversations that we've had about, where is the largest segment of Vive users? There's got to be a pretty good amount in Asia or in China specifically, but I'm sure in East Asia as well. I'm just curious what the breakdown is. Have you seen any numbers?
No, I haven't seen the exact breakdowns, but it sounded like when we were talking to the Sirento guys over there, the development community is very vibrant there, that there's a lot going on.
Well, HTC is based in China or Taiwan?
Yeah, Taiwan.
Okay.
So definitely it makes sense in that regard, but just in general, it seems like there's a lot of development over there. So yeah, I would be interested to see what the breakdown is. But yeah, it's cool to see it finally launching, and we've already heard great things about it. So I think it'll be just nice to start getting some consumers. Hopefully, some people over there will release some reviews or impressions in English on what it's like to set up in the home and all of that. Because I feel like that's kind of the missing link for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely like Upload VR and some of the other outlets out there have done a great job of talking about what the experience is like actually using it, but I haven't really fully heard someone's impressions of what it's like to get it out of the box and set it up and actually get it installed in a normal home, and how easy or difficult that is to get it working, sufficiently in a normal environment. So that's what, because especially with that extra sensor, that's the only thing I'm
I was just going to mention. I'm curious about that because I feel like that's really the only other component of setup. Because once you attach it, it seems like it's pretty well integrated with the headset itself. But the sensor is what I'm curious about, and see how well the tracking is on that.
Yeah, I feel like for people like you, for those out there that don't really know, Zain has his Vive trackers actually mounted and installed on his walls, whereas I'm using poles to kind of keep mine up. Even though I don't take them down really that often, theoretically I got them so that I wouldn't have to, kind of bolt them on permanently, so that I could take them with me to other people's houses and whatnot. And so, I feel like to some extent, if you have a setup like yours where you already are mounting stuff, it's just one extra thing to mount. It's not that big of a deal. For people that have extra hardware like me, like poles and whatnot, keeping stuff up, having a third pole doesn't sound like something that I really want to do, unless, I don't know. So that's why I'm kind of curious to see what it's actually going to need to be like. So then I could, worst case scenario, it'd be cool if I could just kind of plop it up a little bit higher on one of my poles than the other tracker, so that
hopefully, you should be able to get it right next to each other, I would assume.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. So it's all those kind of little things that I'm interested in learning about once it actually gets a consumer release.
No, I'm right there with you. So, well, that's essentially what we have right now in terms of news on wireless stuff. I know last week we talked about Quark VR, and there's some stuff happening in the background. We're hoping to maybe have some info for you from the developers themselves, but we'll keep you updated on how that comes along. The other main topic in news, and Ronnie and I, we talked about a little bit beforehand, but I know it's been beaten to death on Reddit, and obviously everybody's been talking about it, and so I since this show is subjective in terms of our experience, I want to get your take and your reaction to Palmer Luckey and what him stepping down or resigning from Facebook and Oculus. And so the reason I ask is because you've been following this for a while. So I'm not even talking about as it relates to you being a Vive owner, a Vive enthusiast. It's more so just like you as a VR enthusiast. Before there was even the Vive, you've been following what Palmer Luckey has been doing for a while. So, how does this no, I don't want to say affect you, but what is your reaction to this? What are your thoughts initially? Because you've been pretty entrenched in the VR space for a while, and so I'm just curious to get your specific thoughts on it, rather than reading everyone's comments on Reddit and online.
I guess without getting, it's sad, honestly. It's kind of a sad day, because if I think all the way back to when I was first kind of getting interested in some of this stuff, and obviously there's a lot of people out there that were even further back than I was, but I just started getting interested in VR probably a few months or so before the first Oculus dev kits were announced. And so I followed, in general, I've always followed the game industry, period. And I was always interested in virtual reality in general, but my interest kind of started to peak again, in 2000, probably 10 or 11 or so. And then there were I think John Carmack had showed off what at the time looked like kind of like a duct taped prototype running, a version of Doom 3 at one of, I don't remember which conference it was. If it was like I have no idea what conference it was.
It was a while
so
ago.
long ago. Yeah,
But yeah, so you've been following it, but so now, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I remember that stuff, and then I remember Palmer Luckey kind of getting into the mix, and he didn't really seem, at least to me at the time, he didn't seem like he was like a nitty gritty kind of tech type guy. He was more of a big picture kind of person, and he seemed like he had a real genuine enthusiasm for what virtual reality could be. And I really do think, I mean, obviously there were a lot of people out there doing things behind the scenes, but it didn't seem like anybody was really focused and really pushing at it like Palmer was, at least at the time. And he was able to get Carmack and some others to really like focus in on it. And it wasn't until later, after Oculus had their Kickstarter and all that, that I really started hearing about, Valve's working on stuff, and like you start hearing more about different virtual reality projects. But I'm sure some of that stuff may have been going on behind the scenes, without me knowing, whatever. But it was always Palmer Luckey and then eventually Oculus that seemed like, okay, this technology is here. People just haven't really, haven't figured out how to put, these small, high resolution screens with all of these, gyroscope sensors and whatnot together to make this but it was all these like technologies from different, areas that could be brought together to finally bring about this, Ready Player One, I don't know, like special kind of virtual reality that everybody had been wanting since, the late 80s, early 90s, and just couldn't attain it. So, and Palmer was that guy. He had that vision. And so whether he was the one really, screwing together stuff and writing software and whatnot or not, he just seemed very important. And he seemed like, he was at least, he was a great proselytizer of the medium. And, as things kind of went on and then, Oculus got bought by Facebook. And then after that, like, it was just kind of, I'm sure a young guy like that, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of craziness that goes on behind the scenes and a lot of, maneuvering in the upper echelons of corporations and whatnot that lead to certain things happening. But without getting, too much I mean, it's unfortunate, some of his, personal political type issues kind of got involved, and he was always a very outspoken person. So I feel like he never shied away early on from kind of getting on Reddit and giving people what he had to say about certain things, whether it was right or wrong, and people have their own opinions on all of that stuff as well. I just remembered thinking that he always seemed like he was like a pretty genuine, person, whether you agreed with him or not.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, like I said, sad to see how things ended up for him, but I hope the best for him, and I hope things, things go well and that he's able to move on to something that will be, also very successful. Hopefully something in VR, because I don't know what his plans are exactly, but even if he leaves Facebook, I mean, the guy really seems to love this stuff. So it would be interesting to me, and also not surprising if we were to see him somehow use that enthusiasm that he has for VR and kind of take it in a new direction. But at the same time, I can see why after a while it just wasn't going to work with Facebook, given that they have their own corporate culture and they have their own ways of doing things. And the more that Oculus kind of gets incorporated into that, I mean, some people are against it. I, for one, actually think it could provide some benefits. I mean, you see what Google does with VR and all of that. Like, you and I were just talking about this the other day. Like, to some extent, it seems like Facebook hasn't fully embraced Oculus as much as they could. I mean, just recently they announced support for 360 video content, live streaming. I say 360 live streaming on Facebook. And like, to me, I thought that was a little bit late because Google and Periscope were already supporting that. And since it's such a feature that could go hand in hand with VR. It just seems like, if they really have this, long term grand vision of what VR is going to do with social media and all of that, then you would hope that they would really seriously integrate it. Whether that's
Well, would you say that Palmer Luckey was the guy holding that back? I mean, I don't think so. I feel like
no,
he'd be all for integration.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think he was holding it back per se, but it's just maybe one of those things with when you have such a like strong personality, like he was so willing to go out there and just like he wanted to be kind of free in his own person and everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like to some extent, maybe a guy like that just doesn't. I don't know. I can't talk about all that.
No, and
that's to be fair.
That's fair. Well, so my question now, and you kind of started getting into it, but more specifically, I want to dig down into where do you think this leaves Oculus now in terms of its relationship with Facebook, and where do you think that it'll go?
I mean, I think people will try to make it a bigger deal than it is. Like, I think to some extent he was kind of like the Queen of England or something. He was like a figurehead. Like, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he did a lot, right? And he was important, especially early on. I feel like to some extent, though, once they hired a lot of very technically savvy people and they have a lot of great minds working on VR over there at Oculus and Facebook, then, regardless of who you talk about, I don't think there's going to be a single person that you remove from that mix that's going to make or break the situation. Like, it's not like even losing Steve Jobs at Apple doesn't necessarily like make Apple no longer in the picture, right? And that's and Steve Jobs obviously had a much larger impact on where that company was going and kind of what its products were like, right? But even then, like they have so many talented people working at those companies that you lose someone like that, and you expect that they're going to move forward and still continue to do great things. So, and it seemed like, I mean, for whatever it's worth, Facebook did. I think like the kind of the farewell messaging that went out of Facebook on near his last day. I mean, it was a little strange that it kind of came suddenly. It didn't seem like there was a lot of announcements ahead of time talking about how he was going to. So I don't know if it was a sudden decision and whose decision it was or anything like that. But at least the final messaging seemed positive, which if their parting wasn't positive, then that's at least good on them for kind of going out there and recognizing that they need to let him leave, in a positive light with a good image and all of that. And yeah, I think they'll continue to do great things. I definitely don't think that I don't think that he's been calling the shots in terms of Oculus's direction for a while. At the same time, I think his biggest impact was getting everyone together to take this stuff seriously. And they obviously are. I mean, the fact that Facebook bought them, I think in and of itself shows that he kind of did his job, right? Like before all of this, do you really think, I don't know, like a few minus Palmer Luckey, I don't know who could have convinced anyone to invest into VR like, he did, and then subsequently caused other people. I mean, all of this stuff kind of swirled from what he was really interested in at the beginning, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
again,
I feel like he should, like, that's credit due where it's deserved. I mean, just getting the enthusiasm up and around VR in general. I feel like he did a great job with that. But yeah,
there's definitely there's definitely other people doing great things too. Like, I don't want to discredit. Like, I'm sure there's people out there that are going to say, well, I don't know, like, when Palmer was doing this and that, I was, working on this project, or I was like, he wasn't the only one, I'm sure, that was working on VR stuff at the time, but he was the one that was able to get it into the spotlight, and he was able to make it seem exciting and credible to the point where this guy's on, the cover of Time magazine, and he's, selling his company to fit
I think the sale to Facebook, I think honestly, to get the attention of Facebook to invest in you that much money on a very, in a very untested market or just product idea. Granted, it has incredible potential, and we see that now after the fact that these prototypes are out. But I think that is probably one of the biggest things for me, just getting Facebook's attention enough where they're just like, yeah, we should start spending money on this because the tech is there, it's good enough, and we need to.
Yep, and for anyone that's followed the ZeniMax Oculus lawsuit, like, part of me, like when I think back to how some of that stuff went down, I'm like, man, how could you be so stupid? Like, how could you sign this not NDA as Palmer Luckey did, and then go ahead and start a huge company on the basis of stuff that you had been working, like, even if it is different, like stuff that you were working on with someone that was employed by a different company that dealt with computer software at the time and all of that. And like, it's easy to think that way, but at the same time, I mean, these are like, John Carmack's a genius. If you get the opportunity to work with him on something as exciting as VR, you're going to do it. I mean, it's not, and likewise, he wasn't in the position. I mean, it sounded like he really was trying to, have more leeway to work on some of that stuff with ZeniMax, and they really weren't interested. And it wasn't until after the fact that you see how successful all this stuff is, and then everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie kind of thing. So like, it's easy in retrospect to look back and be like, oh man, this guy made so many mistakes, or if this just would have been handled differently, like who knows what that, verdict did. And I'd be interested to see how Facebook is going to continue to represent him. I mean, if they're going to continue to push for an appeal, if that was also
that's
part
a really
of it.
good point. Yeah.
Like I'm
well, you know
curious.
what? I mean, the fact that if he resigned and it wasn't completely his decision, I feel like that may show Facebook's colors in a sense. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. That's just my thought.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see how that continues to go, and like, does Facebook still, is he still represented by the same attorneys as those other people that are now, still Facebook employees, and is he going to be in the same? Yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see how that's all going to shake out.
Yep, me too.
But like I said, regardless, it's like everything is easy in retrospect, right? Like, the fact of the matter is, like, this was like, we're all going to look back at these days, and like, I hope there's a cool book that someone writes, 20 years from now, that kind of talks about the real story and how this stuff all happened, and there's no doubt about it that Palmer Luckey is going to go down in history as being someone that really was important to virtual reality.
I mean, just one of the main pioneers, I'd say.
Yeah, and and hopefully VR, in 50 years from now, is still huge, and in a completely different, type of shape than it is now. Like, it's, and we look back at this, and you really think, man, like, that guy did a lot for everybody. So
yeah.
Well,
I'm hoping he stays within the industry. I hope that. I mean, I really don't know in what format. I feel like not that it's below him, but it's just like it's too small of an idea for him to go out and maybe start working on development for games or development for apps and stuff like that. I feel like you said, he's more of a big picture guy. And I hope that, in the future, if he is working on something big picture, it is cross-platform and includes all, you know what I mean? Includes open. Yeah.
And that's actually a good thing to bring up is I mean, if I recall correctly, some of the stuff that he would get in trouble with early on would be saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, we're if people talked about whether Oculus is going to be a closed or open platform, he would say stuff like, "No, of course, it's going to work on everything." And then later, when it didn't, people would kind of call him out on it, and he'd have to give business reasons and what. I feel like this guy through and through was always he had good intentions, and whether those intentions truly had to change due to business reasons, or if he was being told to do different things. I think a guy like him that is able to continue, even if he doesn't want to continue, I think the situation was hard given that he was kind of thrust into this, this place where he didn't have the freedoms that he had early on. If 100%, if you look at how he was managing himself and the company and all that stuff before he got involved with Facebook. It was so loosey goosey. I mean, it did lead to this crazy lawsuit, right, with ZeniMax, because he was so so. So I guess it just kind of went in a direction that kind of escaped him in a sense, and that's what you can kind of look to, when things kind of get out of control. Sometimes they don't go exactly the way you plan it, but you roll with the punches, and I guess continue on.
I agree. So. And just to clarify for listeners, I mean, we're not Palmer Luckey apologists, and in fact, I honestly don't know that much about the guy, and I know that there's probably quite a few people who aren't fans of him for personal reasons, and especially with all the stuff that came with the election.
Yeah,
I'm talking specifically and purely about his contribution to VR, and the fact that he's just got such a broad vision that no matter what, I hope he can still contribute in some way to the industry and help push, continue to push it forward.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what, we're not specialists in terms of, I haven't gone, I mean, I know the whole Nimble America stuff, and a lot of that seemed like it was super sketchy and definitely not cool. But at the same time, that was kind of his own personal stuff, whatever.
I don't even want to get into his personal stuff, because the thing is, at the end of the day, it doesn't even concern me. At this point, looking at, I mean, call it what you will, we're dealing with a guy who launched a huge company that got bought for billions of dollars by one of the largest corporations on the planet, and he was just a young guy, just with a lot of ambition and interested in a new medium, and made virtual reality took it from something that was pure fantasy and kind of a just potential, and really got it pretty far into becoming an actual product, and did get it to become a consumer product. And absolutely,
even though it's still in its early days, you can't.
Well, they're only going to continue to refine it. I mean, I really doubt Oculus or Facebook will pull the plug this early on.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, with all the bad, you have to, look at the good. And I think especially right now, given that he had just had his final day at Oculus earlier this week, we need to take off our hats to him and wish him the best of luck. So.
For sure. So, well, let's cap that and move on to game talk if you're ready to go.
Yeah, let's move on.
So it sounds like we both had, I guess, archery games this week. I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to.
Yeah, I guess I can. Well, no, you go first.
Okay, I'll go. I'll start. So I played Twisted Arrow, which I've been reading a lot about in the Reddit forums, and it came out just a couple days ago, but it seems like there's quite a bit of fanfare around it, quite a bit of positive reaction, and it's currently on sale. And when I say currently, it's Saturday, April 1st. So I'm assuming it'll be on sale at least maybe for another day or two, or you know what? I don't know. I have no idea how much longer it'll be on sale, but it is on sale right now for 25% off at $14.99 US. But this game is futuristic and very what's the word I'm looking for? It's futuristic archery, and it's just got a really interesting vibe to it that I haven't come across in any other game.
All right, so you're gonna have to explain yourself.
Yes.
What is futuristic archery?
So because you're shooting at cyborgs and robots with your bow and arrow, and your bow and arrow is like half computer. It's got a lot of different tips and little tricks and things that it can do. And I mean, that's just kind of part of the game that it helps you move along, but you have different kind of arrows, which is actually pretty cool. So for anybody who's watched the Avengers, so Hawkeye, or if you've watched,
I swear that was exactly what I was about to,
so
as you were explaining devices on arrows, I was like, this sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and someone also mentioned Arrow, the comic book show for the Green Arrow. So you have several different arrows that you can choose to fire. Like there's ones that leave mines. There's ones that that's just like a full explosion. There's one where you can like freeze your enemies. So it's just
is it easy to switch from one to another?
Yeah.
Like,
So all you do is you press down on the trackpad. The thumb trackpad, and you can like it's got that like 360 circular thing, and you can just flip to whichever one you want. And if you hold down the trigger on your bow hand, it actually turns into a shield which you can block incoming shots. It's pretty cool. Like it took me. It actually didn't take me very long to get adjusted to it.
Does it feel good? Like does it?
Yeah. So about that, the haptics aren't as strong. And when I say that, I mean strong in a very literal sense, like in a very physical sense. And what I noticed is that like when I was shooting the arrows, it just felt smooth. And maybe that's because like there wasn't much haptic on it. Like I didn't feel it as much when I was pulling the arrow back, and all of a sudden it was just like boom,
we're
boom,
in the
boom.
future, right? Like you're these are futuristic.
Yeah,
like
exactly. So
you don't have the recoil, right? Like,
exactly. So that was one of the first things that I noticed, but I didn't notice it as a negative. Like, in fact, I almost noticed it as a positive, because I immediately like said to myself kind of out loud, like, ooh, that was kind of smooth, like just firing the arrows. Like it just had like a different quality to it that I'm not going to say is bad, but it's not in terms of haptics, it's not as strong. And like I said, I meant that in a very literal sense, but it's got a good feel to it. The game is not a wave-based shooter, which is fantastic. It has teleportation. You go through these different levels, but what it has, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's guided teleportation. So you can like move to specific spots. And I think the best way to
what Quiver is like that, actually.
Oh, Quiver does too. Okay, I was immediately thinking of Robo Recall, since I had a chance to actually play it at Ronnie's place yesterday. Something like that. So it's not free-flowing movement and locomotion or teleportation where you can go around the entire environment. You can go anywhere you want in the environment as long as it is one of those designated spots, but you can move back and forth. And the thing is, like, the game has a very it has a very logical like forward progression, and I think you're part of like the army or something. You got this general or someone like talking in your ear, telling you not exactly where to go or what to do, but just giving you talking you through everything. And so that makes it a little bit easier. It kind of helps guide you through the game. The enemies aren't that creepy or menacing or anything. They just seem like robots, honestly, that are kind of running at you. So maybe they could do something with the AI there, but overall, I felt like the game was unique in that sense. And again, maybe I haven't played Quiver, so it's tough for me to compare to that. But based on what I'm saying, how much does it sound like it is in comparison to Quiver?
It sounds different. Really the main thing, I guess, Quiver kind of didn't have as strong of a haptic feedback sense, I think, as some of the other titles either, at least from what I remember of it. But that does lend to you being able to kind of fire off more shots more quickly, I think. Mm-hmm. So there's like pros and cons to it. Like, I do kind of miss it because I do like that feedback, but at the same time, when you're kind of in the midst of battle trying to fire off arrow after arrow after arrow, without the feedback, it is a little bit smoother and quicker. And then the other thing is, like you said, like having fixed spots that you can teleport to. So they're kind of fixed vantage points that you're able to use in order to, fire down on or across enemies, as opposed to just being able to move anywhere you want. So it kind of adds a little bit of strategy. But other than that, like it sounds, the setting at least is completely different. And
actually, sorry to cut you off, but I do want to just talk about that quickly. The atmosphere, aesthetic, and environment is actually really cool, because you're like in a it's a city environment, but almost like a zombie overrun, or like I don't know. There's just like burning buildings all around. There's cars. Like it's got that kind of feel to it, like post-apocalyptic feel, which is actually pretty cool, because it actually did remind me a little bit of like when the Arrow TV show that I'm talking about. Like when I've seen that, and it's just like it's almost like being a superhero in a city where you're going around the city, and granted, like the city's completely abandoned, but it's cool to be able to like go to, you know, tall buildings, shoot enemies from up there, being able to, you know, it just, like I said, just the feel of it, cross bridges, things like that. It's got I really like the environment to it. It's dark, which is not a bad thing. It's you know, as compared to other games which are much brighter, but like this just has like this feel of like, okay, it's nighttime, you're infiltrating through, you need to like do whatever you need to do for the mission, and it just has a really nice flow and feel to it in terms of the environment.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's Twisted Arrow. Would definitely recommend it. And I know there's a wealth of archery games out there, so I'm curious to hear about your experience.
Yeah, so I've actually played quite a few of them recently, and I just happened to see, you know, hashtag Archery pop up on Steam the other day.
Made by the same people who did.
Yeah, by the same people that did Selfie Tennis. So hashtag Selfie Tennis.
That's probably going to be their brand moving forward, right?
Yeah, it must be. So as soon as I saw that, I mean, I was a big fan of Selfie Tennis. Say what you will about kind of the replay value there, and kind of, you know, how many there isn't a whole lot to do other than kind of you just play tennis by yourself in that game. But I just thought it felt great, and I liked the quirky style. And you know, so as soon as I saw it, I just said, you know, I need to give this a try. I really liked what they did with their first title, and I want to see what Selfie or what hashtag Archery is like. And I was shocked. Actually, it's great. Like I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't realize that they were going to really double down and kind of
it exceeded your expectations. Essentially.
Yeah, it's like it's a real game. They have real, like if anything, maybe I need to go back to Selfie Tennis. Maybe they've updated it since I last played, and they've added like, you know, legit modes and go. There were always kind of these informal kind of weird achievements you could get by doing weird stuff, but it was never kind of in your face or official. I feel like there's still some of that in this game, but there's also more. There's more structure, and that's kind of what Selfie Tennis was kind of missing. Was, you know, you'd go in and just kind of mess around for a while, but eventually, at least for me, I wouldn't know what I was supposed to keep doing, and then I would eventually just kind of get tired of it and turn it off. Well, this, at least in my first playthrough, and again, it might not have a crazy amount of replay value, but it's kind of, it reminds me of what's it, the lab in a sense, in terms of it's kind of like comprised of several mini games.
Yeah.
So all these mini games are all archery related. So basically, you're going to be shooting things with arrows, no matter what mode you're in. But all of the different modes are really unique and kind of funny and interesting. And I don't want to talk about them too much because I don't want to give away, like, some of the fun I had playing this game was just kind of figuring out kind of what the interactions were and what I was supposed to be doing, and just thinking like, oh wow, that's like a really neat idea, or that's a fun idea. And so again, like, so I guess for those out there, like, the archery mechanics themselves are really good. They're pretty solid. I thought the tracking could be a little bit better in terms of like where they have like it has basically like big white gloves, similar to a game like what's it called? It's escaping my mind right now.
Big white gloves.
Job Simulator.
Oh, okay,
so
gotcha.
like kind of like Mickey Mouse, like big,
that's
fluffy,
what I was thinking.
white gloves are your hands, yeah. And obviously one of them is going to have the bow, and the other one, whenever you click the trigger, it automatically generates an arrow, so you don't have to worry about like grabbing it from above your back or anything like that. You just kind of generate arrows, and it has like a fun cartoony. For anyone that's played Selfie Tennis, it has this really weird, like, kind of unicorny, kind of trippy, but cartoony, stylized, bright, colorful kind of style and atmosphere to it. And everything's really light and fun. And so this game has that, and you start out in a room like next to a window overlooking a street. And obviously you can shoot outside and do whatever, but really the way you get to the mini games is you press a button and you pull up a cell phone. And it's kind of like a huge like Fisher Price looking iPhone, and there's a few different icons on there, and then you use your hands to kind of point to which icon you want to click on, and then it transports you to a game. And then once you get into the game, you have your bow and arrow again, and you just kind of start. And each one has different. Like I said, I don't want to give it away too much, but like one of them is kind of like here's an interesting here's kind of a fun thing to a fun example. One of them is the icon is a pizza. So I wonder what that is. So you click on the pizza, and now you're in basically like a pizzeria. You have your arrow, you have your bow and arrow, and you're standing over a table with a bunch of ingredients on it. And in the distance, there's a pizza crust, and it's hanging off of a string, and it's being dangled and taken across from right to left or left to right. And there's a screen in front of you, and your job is to create a pizza using the bow and arrow with the toppings in the order that they want. And so you literally, before they haul off that pizza crust, it goes across the screen a couple times, and then it leaves. So you have to quickly be like, okay, stick a tomato on your arrow, shoot the crust with a tomato. Okay, you got the tomato. All right, now it needs 2 mushrooms. So you have to, mushroom, shoot. And you have to create your pizza before it gets started off. There's just fun stuff like that. And again, it's it's kind of a high score thing, and there's not going to be a ton of replay value once you see all of the different situations. But every single mini game I played was unique and clever and fun and just very refreshing in each sense of the word and different every time. So another one, and this is the only one. I almost don't want to give this away too much because this one was a really cool one. But you're like a paper boy, and you start out and you're on the back of a truck, and the truck is moving. But they do a really good job of making it so you don't feel sick or anything like that. You legitimately feel like you're just on the back of this newspaper truck. And you're supposed to shoot newspapers into mailboxes as you're driving down the street. So the truck's moving, you're on the truck, so you don't have to worry about moving the truck. It moves on its own, and you're just focused on trying to get those arrows with the newspapers on the ends of them into those mailboxes. Well, it's pretty tricky to mailboxes are kind of a small target, especially if you're moving on a truck. And it's not moving very fast, but it's still not easy. Well, while you're kind of shooting these things as you're going through this neighborhood, everything kind of interacts with you get points for doing things other than just delivering the newspapers. So you can break out windows on the houses, and it gives you some points. There's little indicators of this could be a mini game. That you might see a basketball sitting on a driveway while you're driving by, and there's a little icon next to it. You shoot that icon, and then for the next minute or two, it transports you, and now you're off the truck. You are over there on the driveway, and you no longer have to worry about your bows and arrows. Now you just have to shoot as many hoops as you can within a minute. And you finish that, and all of a sudden you're transported back onto the back of the truck, and you're going down the street shooting your arrows again. And there's just fun, silly things like that. Yep. And there's several other ones. I mentioned a basketball one, but there's a few other ones that are just even cooler and more hilarious. And they're all super random, and everything has kind of a cheeky style to it. I mean, I guess I'm going to mention one final mini game, and
don't give them all away.
Yeah, no.
But go ahead. I'm curious to hear.
I do want to bring this one up because it's hilarious. No, you know what? I've said enough already.
Oh man, you can't just do that though.
Yeah, no, I've said enough. I've said enough.
You got to give a little preview now.
Meh.
Or at least give a kind of a description of it, so when people get in there, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, that's what Ronnie was talking about."
All right, yeah. So I don't want to give away the twist that makes it really funny, but let's just say it has to do with ice cream. That's
Ice cream. Okay.
Yep.
So when I try this, I'll be looking out for the ice cream one.
Yeah, but so this game, I think it's on sale now for like 10% off or something, or I don't remember exactly. I think it's usually about $10. I think I got it for around $8 maybe. But regardless, even if it's 10, I do think like even if you only play it once,
I'm checking the price right now, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really cute and clever and kind of fun, and I mean I think it's worth checking out for sure. Just because I think it is funny and well done and clever, and I appreciate their sense of humor, and I appreciate their inventiveness. Like I said, like every single mini game I played was kind of, at first I didn't really know what it was, and then as I started playing, I was like, oh, that's like a funny idea, like, oh, that's really neat. And it's just, every single one I played, I had fun with, and it didn't get old because you were constantly, like, that's one of my complaints, I guess, with some of, like, with the various wave shooters out there, and even these different gun and archery games. Like, I get it. The Vive and the Vive ones do a great job of mimicking guns and different fire, but like, sometimes it just gets a little old to do the same thing in a game over and over and over again. And I just feel like #Archery does a great job of understanding that they don't want people to get tired of doing the same thing over and over. So even if the mechanic is very similar in each of these mini games, you're often just firing arrows. They find clever ways of making it interesting and exciting, in different environments, and by giving you, different kind of quirky things to be doing with the arrows. And so I just really appreciated that. So
no, for sure. So the price is normally $9.99. That's US dollars. It is on sale right now for 15% off, which is $8.49. And it says the special promotion ends April 10th. So at least that's what it's saying right now. Of course, that's
and was there some kind of
subject to change?
Was there some kind of a package where you were able to pick
there
that
is.
up?
Yeah, it's called the VR Unicorns bundle, I think. So you'll be able to get that and Selfie Tennis. Okay. And yeah, I mean, the thing is, yo, man, you got me sold already, because you're combining archery and food. That's like my two favorite things. How can you go wrong? But in all seriousness though, like this is actually very refreshing. I'm excited to try the game, mainly because, like you said, not that I'm getting fatigued, but I'm sure many people are. But you see a lot of the same thing where it's just like, okay, you're shooting zombies, or well, let's even just talk about like archery for a second. Yeah, aside from the lab, like most of it, you're shooting like orcs, or you're shooting cyborgs or robots. It's very wave based, and there's you know what I mean, like it's like this sounds like a very fun spin on things. It almost sounds like a Nintendo type of approach, where you just take something serious and just cartoonify it just a little bit and make it like a fun party game atmosphere. So you don't have to get in there and get all serious and show them your game face. It's just like, these are fun things. Like, go make a pizza with bow and arrow and figure it out.
Yeah. And it was just fun. Like I felt legitimately like in certain, especially on that one, the Paperboy one. I just felt like it was fun just experimenting with. Oh, I wonder if I shoot that, if it'll work, or I wonder if I can do this, or I wonder if I can do that. And I just felt like the game does a good job of rewarding you for kind of messing around and having fun. And I feel like more games should do that kind of thing. So.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. Well, let's. I was gonna say let's move on, but I think we both covered our game then.
Yep.
You got anything else though?
No, I think that's it. So
cool. Well, I know this episode was a little bit shorter than usual, but I want to end it talking about what you and I had discussed yesterday, Ronnie, in terms of really trying to grow this podcast in 2017, especially on iTunes. We've been focusing. I know we haven't had an interview in a little while, and that's just really honestly due to scheduling constraints. But we do have things lined up, and we're hoping to get those rocked and recorded out to you guys as soon as possible. But we'd love to be able to grow this podcast. We would love your help in growing it and be able to give back, especially to the community. And so iTunes is where I think we want to focus. Obviously, YouTube is where we have our discussions and people who leave comments there. And it's been great for the conversation so far. But I think what we'd like to do moving forward is to give away a Steam gift card, $20 Steam gift card every month to somebody who leaves a review on iTunes. And this will be randomly drawn. And the way that you can enter is by leaving a review, take a screenshot, and send it to contact@everythingvive.com. And we'll go ahead and put up we'll put up some instructions on our website, everythingvive.com, so you'll be able to see how to do that there. But it's really just leaving a review. Let us know what you think. Hopefully it's a 5-star review, helping us spread the word about the podcast and spreading VR out there. And like I said, every month we're in a new month now. So starting May 1st, or whenever our first episode in May is, we'll draw a name randomly and get you guys a Steam gift card so that you can play one of these games that we've talked about, or maybe a game that we haven't yet covered and are hoping to cover in the future. Well, what do you think, Ronnie?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. Yeah, we just want to promote people kind of interacting and we want as much. We get so much good feedback from everybody listening, and so it'd be awesome to get people kind of interacting more with each other, interacting more with the various types of comments. Like, I wish there was more. Besides YouTube, I wish there were more opportunities for places for people to kind of talk and be able to converse and stuff. So hopefully we'll try to kind of, trigger that a little bit more and get it going by offering these kind of incentives and stuff like that. So we just want to make it fun for you guys. And
it's just a way to give back too.
100%. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us. And we love the fact that you guys, come back time and time again to listen. So yeah, we want to be able to help you out too. So.
Yeah, and actually, I should say thank you first and foremost to everybody who has left a review, and this is you guys are included in there. So if you already have a review, or if you did review the podcast on iTunes at any point in the past, since we've been doing this for, I think it's almost 6 months now or so, Ronnie.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've left a review already, feel free to take a screenshot, send that in, and you'll be entered into the drawing. And like I said, we'll just be pulling a name.
Give your honest opinion, please. Like, we will not be biased in terms of who we award cards to. Of course. I mean, I hope that if you're listening and that if you're a continuing or a repeat listener or somebody who's been tuning in for a while, we hope that you enjoy the podcast enough to give it a good rating. But the thing is, we do very much appreciate constructive feedback. But it's just we'd love to be able to like I was saying earlier, just grow the podcast, and especially just get, our goal is to get more high profile guests on here. And that really just, having the reviews on iTunes really helps us grow, shows a little bit more legitimacy to what we're doing in terms of our contribution to the VR community. And so, we'd love your help, and we'd love to be able to give back on that as well. Yep.
So with that, Ronnie, let's close it out, man. You got anything else?
No, I think that's it. So I hope everybody out there has a great weekend and a great rest of the week. And yeah, same to you, Zain. Hopefully safe travels and all of that.
Thank you. Yep, we'll be back. The following week, and hopefully with more cool news and cool games to play. And if you got any recommendations, leave them on YouTube. I think Twisted Arrow. I don't know if we saw Archery on there, but Twisted Arrow was something that someone had mentioned. So since it was so new, I wanted to get it.
And we didn't get to it this week, but just wanted, before we end the podcast, I just want to put it out there. We are still planning on doing that episode where we go back to games that we've played previously that have had major updates, and that we're going to visit all that. We're still very interested in that. So if you've posted anything, recommendations on games we need to check out that have had a lot of updates that added a significant amount of content to the games, we're looking at that. And if you continue to add those type of comments on YouTube and whatnot this week, we're going to continue to look at it. So that episode will be coming. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
It is.
They're not empty promises. It's just, honestly, it's just scheduling. It's just a matter of getting it. But we are working on it. And the thing is, it's also a matter of being able to go back through and play a lot of these games. I think you and I have been, it's just with life, I guess. You try to make sure that you play one game a week and well enough that you can give some type of feedback on here. But now it's a matter of going back through and jumping in several games. Which I mean, hey, you know what? This is what we love to do anyway. So I don't know why I'm saying it in a. I'm not complaining, but
yeah, no, it is. But like, I mean, that is the trade-off. Is like we want to be able to provide you guys with as many of our impressions on new games as possible, and by doing that, sometimes we're not able to go back to some of the older games as often as we'd like. So it's always helpful to hear from you guys that are able to kind of focus more on something that you love and play it week in, week out to say, hey, like, this game really has came a long way. You guys should go and look at it again. Like we appreciate all of that stuff because sometimes just the week in, week out kind of rat race can kind of, make those things hard to find. So.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, with that, we hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Take care.